What's up guys, it's Alexa here, welcome back to another video. So in this video, we're gonna be going over just my training overall and just like how I run an upper day, for example, on Monday. So I start out with preacher curls, and this is just my focus, which is to do arms. I really want to grow my arms, my biceps, triceps, and forearms, to be honest. And shoulders help definitely with arm size and looking bigger in the arms. And other muscle groups around the arm definitely help as well with looking bigger and just looking aesthetic. But like this is my primary movement for Monday, and I usually do other movements like bicep curls and hammer curls, for example, which do hit biceps on arm days. But this is like a primary mover for me. The reason I do preacher curls is just because for me, this is a movement where I can't cheat. So I have to use less weight. I have to control, and I have more control over the weight. So I prefer doing these over a lot of other movements. For example, like doing just a straight up bicep curl is fine. You can do some in machines and have it pretty well controlled, as well as you can do it like with a normal like barbell, but you can kind of always cheat. On a preacher curl, you can't cheat. You're just gonna have to push through and control the reps. So that's personally why I prefer the preacher curl over a lot of stuff. And it's easier to progress, I feel, when you can't cheat at all, and it's just easier to focus on the form. Then I usually go into bench press, and this for me is a stable movement, just flat bench press. I like flat bench press. I only do pause bench on every movement nowadays because I find that it's like, first of all, I get to use less weight. I'm keeping all the reps clean, so I'm going down slowly. I'm holding for 3 seconds, and then only on warm-up sets I do normal reps, and that's pretty much my chest training. Is just doing pause reps and lower slow eccentrics. That allows me to focus on the form and not ego lift. It's really easy to ego lift when you're quickly bouncing the weight up and down on your chest. So I personally prefer just to like go in and just do the reps properly instead of basically kind of messing around like a lot of other people do, which is just kind of ego lifting, putting up a ton of weight, then failing like after 2 reps or something stupid. And kind of just like a lot of people do teenager messing around. There are people who train seriously, of course, that are teenagers and whatnot, but that was just kind of an example, for example. So that's personally my preference when it comes to bench press. And when it comes to like warming up for movements, I like to do at least a few sets of warm up per movement on my trainings. And this I usually like get a little bit warmed up. So I do like around maybe 2 to 3 sets of warm up before I go into the main weight, depending how high I can go. If it's like a deadlift or a squat, I might take more weights for warm up, and that way I can kind of like get a better feel for the weight, especially if I can do way heavier weights. So one thing I like about personally just flat bench pressing, some people don't like flat bench pressing, is just it's a basic movement, it's a compound movement. It hits the chest, triceps, shoulders, it hits everything. You get a lot of shoulder development out of this movement as well, especially with the pause and tricep. So it's really a good movement, I feel. And you can kind of skip a lot of like shoulder work, especially for the front delts. So you don't have to hit the front delts maybe more than once, like a week max. And I don't even think that's necessarily a necessary thing, because incline bench hits shoulders in the front delt. Like a lot of movements hit it. And if you want to do like a shoulder press with dumbbells, you can. But here I'm pretty much just doing 3-second pauses, trying to keep the form clean and really focus on the form, not trying to ego lift at all. That's pretty much what I've been going for, is to see 2 sets of like to failure with 3-second pauses, and that has been really working out well for me. It allows me to progress and keep it clean. So next I go into chin-ups usually. My biceps usually don't feel very fatigued at this point. Like I feel pretty strong, like it doesn't affect my performance, so that's pretty good for me. My back is definitely one of my stronger parts. I can do a pretty satisfying amount of weight. I weigh about 82 kg right now. Looking pretty good for 82 kilograms right now, I'm not gonna lie. Like hovering around 80 to 82 kilograms right now, and I'm looking pretty good. Like I'm looking like lean, and I'm happy with my physique, and I'm gaining some strength slowly over time. And pretty much the most important part when it comes to, for me, on pull-ups is focusing on slower eccentrics, really controlling the form, going all the way up, getting your chin like over the bar, That's my goal usually, with chin-ups and wide grip pull-ups, which is what I do. And I personally like doing, like I usually prioritize range of motion a lot and the grip, especially on the wide grip pull-up, to get the full range of motion before I start adding weight, because that way I can maximize all the gains from my body weight and just move on to adding a little bit of extra weight as I need it. I can just maximize the gains I can get from the movement without adding weight. It's the same principle as on like bench press. Then I usually go into a movement like, for example, doing some kind of forearms. So this for me is like wrist curls, hammer curls, or basically wrist extensions. So that's usually what I do for forearms. Not a huge lot to say about it. I like to focus on like going as far down as possible, getting the full range of motion for hypertrophy. Not trying to ego lift too much at all. That's not my main goal. If I sometimes increase the weight, it might be because I feel too light with the lower weight. It feels too easy, so it kind of depends on the day too. Sometimes with every movement, some days you feel better, some days you feel worse. So like you might have a really good day one day and be able to do full range of motion with a heavy weight, and then next week you might have to lower it by 2.5 kg, and you might feel worse. So it's like you don't always know how you're gonna feel when you go into a training session. So you have to kind of go by feel sometimes for auto regulation, for your recovery and everything and development. Personally, I just like these two movements and I superset them. They don't really affect each other because they kind of use different muscle groups of the forearm in different places. So that's what I usually do. I'm doing about 17.5 kg right now on wrist extensions. I feel like 15 is kind of like just bordering if it's like too light for me. So that's kind of usually what I go with. Next, I move on to like a chest pec fly. I do two variations, like lower and this standard one. Personally, I just like doing this movement because, well, I like to isolate my pecs with something. I do 2 sets of these to failure basically, and I go really hard and intense on all my sets. That's my goal, is to do 2 hard intense sets. And I personally, some people advocate for like Peter Kacharian advocates maybe for 1 or 2 sets himself. Some people, he's been saying about doing 1 set as of recently. He's learned. For me personally, I like doing 2. Right now, I'm kind of feeling it because it allows me to record content for 1. And 2, I kind of just enjoy training. And 3, I feel like I really need 2 sets to push myself to failure properly, because sometimes I can do 1 set, but then if the set wasn't good, then I feel like I almost have to do another one anyway, so I'm going to end up doing 2 sets anyway. So a lot of times I feel like doing 2 sets actually kind of gets me to a good point of failure, and it's not like too much, but it's not too little either. So I'm not like sugarcoating around lifting in a sense where it's like, okay, I did 1 set, I'm not gonna do anymore. So I can kind of still keep going for 1 more set and really go hard to failure and get those gains. Hypertrophy out of it, I feel like that feels pretty good to me right now. That's kind of what I've been sticking with because it just fits my way of making content and the way I like to train, and I like training. And my training sessions are like max like 1.5 hours, like maximum right now. And that's with cardio kind of included basically. If you didn't include cardio, it would max take like an hour, maybe hour 15 max. Really depends how I superset and how like fast I move between sets, and if I'm like on time, like completely perfectly, like timing exact to the T for seconds, then yeah, of course I'm gonna be really fast. But yeah, that's pretty much how I go about like rest as well. It's like minute 30 for isolations, or like 3 minutes for like normal compound movements, bigger movements. So for something like these isolations, I just take minute 30 and I pretty much superset these 2 and then take a break and then just do the superset again. And I do 2 sets of these supersets. These kind of go well in hand, doing rear delts and pec flies because they isolate totally different muscle groups. Good way to save time and get 2 things done on the same machine, really efficient. For me, personally, I like this rear delt movement and face pulls. Feel that this is really stable of a movement. I can get a lot out of the weight, and I don't have to like the tendency to cheat. Then I usually like doing this lateral raise machine. I prefer this. I mean, doing like with a cable attachment is cool too. Nothing bad about it. I personally like this because you can go to failure on this, and I feel like this is really easy to adjust weight on. This is just be my personal preference, and I also like doing both shoulders at the same time instead of one, so I can get basically sets done faster, so I don't have to like do one shoulder at a time, which is fine. and can be useful, but like I personally like doing this personally a lot, and it's easier to track progress, I feel like, to an extent. But yeah, this isn't like too deep for me, honestly. Leather raise is just like not a raise, to be honest. I do about 8 to 14 reps on these for 2 sets to failure, and I might just go like beyond failure and do small reps too, like I'm kind of doing here. Just kind of struggling at the last reps, just getting as much as I can out of it before I stop. Then I usually move on to some tricep dips. And personally, I'm doing this machine version right now. I have about like almost 4 plates on these, pretty much per side right now. I don't remember exactly, 120 to 40 kilos, probably somewhere there. I'm doing about 5 to 9 reps on these, which is what my compounds usually are, is 5 to 9 reps. I'm getting a lot of. I personally love this movement. It's just a favorite for me. It's kind of just makes you look jacked, and I enjoy doing it, so that's why I do it. Otherwise, I use this for my chest. It hits obviously triceps as well, maybe a bit of shoulders. So it's kind of just like a combined chest movement. Finish off my chest. That's what I'm primarily targeting, and I try to incline a bit forward so I can get more chest out of it. Then I usually go into some abs. I personally do different, like mainly just leg raises and these upper abs. That's like the two key movements for me that really developed abs. You can do like obliques as well, but like these two movements do technically hit the obliques as well. Like you can train the obliques themselves by themselves, but I feel pretty strong on those, and some combat movements also like squats and deadlifts do hit obliques as well. So with those in combination, you don't need to inherently target them that hard. And that's pretty much been my experience. And so this is kind of what I'm sticking with, and these are where you can push progression really easily, in a sense, when you do progress, but abs can take some time to progress, especially at the level I'm finding myself at now. I'm using like 32.5 kg here, and then doing a superset or drop set, in a sense, to body weight, where I just do as many as I can to failure, and that's been kind of my routine, and it usually works pretty well. Unless I can do, like, once the weight feels too easy, I usually just go up by 2.5 kg and just keep going till I have a lot of weight, basically. At some point, I feel like it's gonna get really hard to do these if you're at a certain angle. So you probably have to, like, do a lot of weight. It's kind of hard to get the weight up once you get to a certain level, like, I don't know, towards 50 kg dumbbell probably, or something crazy. It's gonna get pretty hard to do these, like, properly. So I've been progressing pretty well on this, I'd say. Abs have definitely been a decent strong suit for me always, and I don't feel a huge struggle with them. But some of the movements are like fun slash they get kind of harder the more you progress on them. Honestly, that's because you have to put so much weight on your chest when you're doing these incline ones, especially. Can hurt a little bit definitely. It depends. There's different ways to do like these kind of incline abs. You could do it on a GHD and different ways, so it really depends. There just happens to be an incline sit up bench, so I just use that personally. I don't really have a crazy amount to say about abs. Abs are pretty simple, just like spam leg raise and some kind of a incline sit up, honestly. If you can do it, if you're not like completely obese or something and you need to like lose fat or something, or you're really weak, I would recommend doing these for abs. And here's some posing real quick, looking pretty decent. I'm pretty happy with my physique, can't complain. Looking good. Thank you for watching though. God bless if there's will there's a way.